At this point, you've all heard of ChatGPT. It's going viral on Twitter. People are claiming general intelligence is here. It's going to kill Google. It's going to do all that. But one of the points I've been hearing lately is that of the two hype cycles we've had over the last few years with AI and blockchain, AI has now supposedly become the clear winner, while blockchain and crypto tech has failed to reach adoption. I want to clear up some misconceptions here and talk to you about why I think AI might actually provide a massive boost to crypto adoption over the coming couple of years, and why you should look at it as a really good thing for the space. Okay, first things first, AI has had a lot more time to be developed than crypto and blockchain tech, which is why I don't think it's a fair comparison. For a long time, machine learning and AI wasn't constrained because of a lack of technology or a lack of algorithms, but rather a lack of data. And once the internet took off, we all reached the point where we're addicted to watching TikTok dances and everybody has ADHD. We now have a shit ton of data that was being used to train these models. Blockchain and crypto tech, on the other hand, has realistically only been around for a bit over a decade, and there are still massive low level improvements being done, and challenges being attempted, and legal battles being fought. AI seems to start having its own legal battle moment now, as nobody was really sure what to expect with AI tech until very recently. But now we're seeing legal issues start to happen with a couple of countries banning the use of ChatGPT and so on. With crypto, legal hassles have been a thing from the very early days. So while teams are working on improving the tech, they also have to spend time navigating gray areas in the law, dealing with folks like the SEC, spending financial and human resources in court. A significant part of the lack of adoption, in my opinion, is a lack of proper regulation. I've been in the space for about 5-6 years at this point, and I still say that from the outside, when I'm introducing somebody new to crypto, it looks scammy as hell and it looks complicated as hell. But there are real use cases, but there's a lack of regulation around them that stops them from being very accessible to the average person today. Moving on, let's talk about how I think AI will boost crypto adoption going forward. So if you've known me for some time before this YouTube channel, I've kind of always talked about that there are two use cases of crypto that will be the highest impact, in my opinion, and those two are finance and identity. So when I say finance, I mean like DeFi, and DeFi is kind of already there. We have some great products in the space, and it continues to only get better. And this also includes like payments in general, like global remittance and payments. Identity, on the other hand, is something that was mainly targeted towards privacy focused individuals up until today. The whole idea of self sovereign identity or decentralized identity was that a user can own their credentials and own their data in a self sovereign wallet and present cryptographic proofs of that data when they need to prove a claim. So, for example, proving you actually did work at a certain company for X number of years that's on your resume through a cryptographic proof rather than sharing personal details like your payslips. And this is actually something, LinkedIn is starting to introduce now. Verifiable employment histories are rolling out slowly on LinkedIn, which happens through the use of DID and verifiable credential tech. You can kind of think of this space as like, imagine Twitter, but if you actually owned all your data and all your tweets and everything. So while the idea sounds good in practice, companies love gathering your data. They can do all sorts of things with it. If nothing else, they'll just sell it to some other data organization. The switch to self-sovereign identity was only happening in places which truly cared. And we've seen, for example, the European government fund some of the work that's been done in the space. We've seen the Korean government fund some of the work that's been done in the space. There's also work being funded by the USA and the Canadian governments. But overall, adoption was still very slow. Well, this is now changing because of ChatGPT. So imagine Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, right? All of these. They're all starting to see a lot of AI generated content. There's AI generated tweets, AI generated humans, AI generated photos, videos, everything, music. It's getting harder and harder to differentiate who's actually human and who's not. So if you take Twitter as an example, right? Does Twitter get value from bots bombarding their platform, or do they get value from humans using it and posting tweets over there? Amongst many others, Twitter and all these other platforms will need to find a way to distinguish between AI and humans. There's been a stopgap solution on Twitter now where the For You tab will only show verified people, or like blue tick people who've paid $8 to $10 a month to get that. And the argument there is, it's harder to run a botnet when you have to pay $8 per bot rather than just spinning up a bunch of fake accounts. But overall, in the long term, the best way to kind of do it is through cryptographic proofs and proof of humanity. Also, with all these emerging new social media like Blue Sky and Lens and Farcaster and all of that, it's better to use cryptographic proofs and stick to those rails. Now, there have been several organizations who have done work in this field of self-sovereign identity and proof of humanity. Most notably, folks from the Decentralized Identity Foundation, from Microsoft, from WorldCoin, who are now getting widespread attention on these solutions they've spent many years building. And as the need grows to distinguish between AI and humans, this whole concept of self-sovereign identities will shift from being a cypherpunk sort of privacy-focused thing to being a very mainstream thing. And sort of work still needs to be done, right? It needs to be easier to manage your ID wallet. There needs to be better interoperability across these platforms and so on. But technical implementations will happen. But my key point really is that identity is one of the highest impact use cases of crypto. And the existence of AI models like ChatGPT is now giving us the fuel that is necessary to really drive that use case forward and have it adopted on a massive scale. There's pressure on organizations, on governments, on people, on platforms to be able to distinguish AI from humans. And honestly, if we get nothing else out of crypto, right? If DAOs cease to exist, if NFTs die, the only thing we get is DeFi and identity, I still consider that a massive, massive win for the space. This is not to say I don't think there will be other use cases. There might be, but I'm just saying that these two alone getting adopted on a wide enough scale would be such a massive win for everybody who has spent time building in this space. And once users are in control of their self-sovereign identities, it's less of a jump to move towards things like self-sovereign finance and other concepts of ownership. And maybe in another video, we dig deeper into the work that's actually being done around the self-sovereign ID tech. But for now, just know that AI and blockchain tech are going to be fundamental for each other in the long run for AI safety and proof of humanity, even if it's just for Sybil resistance or whether it's for reputation purposes. And if that is the fuel we needed to adopt self-sovereign identity to move the whole world to a more secure and private way of owning and sharing their data, that sounds good enough to me. Peace.